Bella on my screen. Her smile, it shines so bright. She's a queen with every scene. In the morning or the night, recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong.
Petals got power, Florabella stands tall. Every drip, every drop, watch the haters fall. Channel sharp as thorns, ain't taking no mess. Scroll through her feet, feel that queen's finesse. Vines tangle tight, but Flora breaks free. Roots so deep, can't mess with her tree. From the mud she rises, roses from the dirt. Every comment section she lays down hurt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. From the garden green to the concrete wall, Florabella, unstoppable nature's child. Leaves whisper secrets, she's the loudest shout. From the channel buzzing, she never backs out. Seed of strength, through seasons she grows. In the face of doubt, her spirit glows. Cameras ain't a limit, she branches out. Thorns in her crown, she wears it no doubt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless.
All right, everybody. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. What a lovely Monday where if you have the federal holiday off, then you're home relaxing. And if you're not, then I hope that you get to relax when you get home today. All right. With that being said, I'm bringing to you guys another case review show, a spooky dating review which is the new theme of the show where I'm going to be talking about relationships because honestly, there's just so many fears, right? There's a lot of fears um, behind getting into a relationship, getting married, having children, being locked in with somebody, right? There's a lot of fears, and a lot of those fears have to do with what you see on the news every day, right? Women, children, families passing away at the hands of a spouse, of both parents, of a child, right? There's a lot of violence. And cases like this remind me why it's so scary to be a woman, right? And to be a person dating in the dating world, in the world of romance, right? Because it's actually something that people tend to minimize and make it seem like it's not that big a deal. But the person you love can cause you a lot of danger. So I have about 7 or so cases of a spooky ending. Now, when I say spooky, I'm talking about spooky in the spookiest sense, right? Meaning a person didn't know what they were in for when they began dealing with the person who ultimately led to the end of their life. So we're going to get started with a case of a man who, instead of leaving his cheating wife, he decided that he would send her off the earth. All right, let's get into this case.
Appreciate his romantic off, on, and off.
Sorry again.
Set some,
I also believe, and by the way, guys, I also believe that to some extent, this is the reason why in the modern day, women aren't dating, women aren't in relationships. You're finding that women are staying single until a lot later in their life. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we see people in relationships going through. All right, so let's get into this case of a man who believed his wife to be cheating, and so he decided to end her life.
Indiana police say a Valentine's Day celebration turned into a brutal murder scene when a husband, furious that his wife didn't appreciate his romantic plans, allegedly stabbed her 40 times. Taylor Meyer is accused of beating his wife with a wine bottle and repeatedly stabbing her while the couple's 3 young children were asleep in their home. And after the alleged attack,
All right, if that's not birth control and celibacy juice, I don't know what is. Okay? I'm not making light of this. But imagine you give your life to be a homemaker, to raise 3 children, and the person whom you ultimately have a child with does something this brutal to you. But let's continue.
he's accused of then sending a photo of her dead body to her alleged lover with the caption, "Your fault." Stay tuned as I walk you through what happened. For Law and Crime News, I'm Kennedy Walker. It was Valentine's Day 2025. Taylor and Deborah Meyer, a married couple in Jeffersonville, Indiana, were supposed to be celebrating love. But by the end of the night, Deborah was dead. Court documents obtained by WAVE revealed Taylor had planned an elaborate Paris-themed evening, buying Deborah a dress, ordering dinner, and having their children draw pictures of the Eiffel Tower. But police say when she didn't seem impressed, Taylor allegedly snapped. According to a probable cause affidavit, officers with the Jeffersonville Police Department.
Now, I don't know how true this is, right? Because this is speculation. Unless he mentions this in the trial, which I'm very curious to see, right? How annoying is it that in couples in relationships people find that they have to validate each other, make each other happy? I think that's one of the most dangerous elements that we've been fed in the fantasy of like love and relationships. Instead of teaching people to engage in conflict resolution with their partners, people taught their daughters and sons and whomever else to believe that it's all about romance and it's all about being in love and smitten and head over heels, right? Where these 2 people could have very well been having a very normal relationship hump where they're not interested in each other. Maybe they feel suffocated by each other's presence, which is maybe just a hump they're going through. There's a lot of things that relationships go through. I think people who've been in long-term relationships can probably speak to it the best, where Sometimes your partner is not going to care about what effort you put in because they're sick and tired of you leaving your smelly socks on the floor. Right? Sometimes things aren't going to be that big of a deal, but I think when we're in these relationships where we're expecting our partners to give us love, affection, self-esteem, happiness, fulfillment, things can go sideways. All right, let's continue.
Responded to the couple's home late on February 14th after receiving a call from someone claiming Deborah was in danger. The caller allegedly said he'd received a distressing call from Deborah's phone and could hear her yelling for help. When police arrived, they knocked on the door, but there was no answer. The man who called 911 then made his way to the house. That's when he allegedly received a chilling photo from Deborah's phone, reportedly showing her lifeless body on the floor. Officers eventually forced their way inside. They found Deborah brutally beaten and stabbed dozens of times. Taylor Meyer was arrested. In an interview with detectives, Meyer allegedly confessed to killing his wife, explaining that their marriage had been strained since he saw a photo of her holding hands with another man in January, referring to the other man as her co-worker. Meyer said he tried to pull out all of the stops on Valentine's Day, allegedly saying during the interview, quote, "It was the hardest I've ever tried. She just didn't give a shit." At some point after dinner, Meyer allegedly said he and his wife fought and she left the house for about 20 minutes to go see her alleged boyfriend. Per the affidavit, Meyer said, "For the last 2 months, I've been staying home with the kids every Saturday night while she goes and fucks whoever and lies to my face about it." Reportedly, while his wife was in the bathroom, Meyer tried to read her text messages on her smartwatch, and when she came back out, he demanded her cell phone. She allegedly refused, and a physical confrontation began. Meyer claimed that during the struggle, Deborah allegedly said, quote, "What are you going to do? Kill me? You're going to hurt me and leave our kids with no parents?" The altercation reportedly turned violent. Meyer allegedly choked Deborah and went through her.
And this is the thing. You never know how pushing somebody far is going to cause them to react. I think the easiest way to find out, to mess around and find out, is to push someone to their limits, right? And when you do that, you see the worst of people, you see the worst of outcomes. So I don't know why people take cheating and being disloyal to their spouses as light. I'm not saying that it should be met with deletion. I'm saying that people will go there when they've been pushed there. So I think, just leave. You don't want to be with the person, don't cheat on them. You find out a person's cheating on you, leave. This is for both sides that I'm giving that advice, because I know that things can get very ugly when infidelity and betrayal is included. So
her phone, later placing a call to her alleged boyfriend and reportedly told him, "It's your fault. You want to ruin my marriage and tear my family apart." All while his wife was allegedly screaming in the background. Court documents say Meyer went back to choking his wife and then allegedly hit her in the head several times with a wine bottle until she was unconscious. Meyer allegedly claimed he wasn't sure if Deborah was dead, but he went to the kitchen and grabbed a, quote, "big kitchen knife," a long one, which he reportedly used to stab her in the chest. Police say Meyer then sent a photo of his wife's body to her alleged boyfriend, which he captioned, "Your fault." A medical examiner determined Deborah had been stabbed about 40 times. Meyer is currently being held in the Clark County Detention Center without bond. Joining me to talk more about this is legal expert Brad Banks. Brad, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So, given the details in the process,
and it's very interesting here. This is a brutal crime, but they're focusing on the cheating and the infidelity and the fact that he was putting accountability on the other man. I don't even like highlighting cheating wife. Like, I think even putting that in there, I think man deleted wife, then sent body pic to lover is enough, right? It's insinuating that. Good morning, Scar Beauty. Good morning. No problem. You made it. You made it on time. I dove right into the show because I have a set time for this and I want to get into all of them. But right now we're talking about the case of a man who believed his wife to be cheating, and so he deleted her and took a picture with her body sent it to the lover. All right. Now, we're going to hear from here about how a case like this is going to be prosecuted. Because I told you guys, right? I'm seeing a big, major trend in crime where men are being sentenced with a lot of violent crimes against women. Right now, there's a lot of sentencing that can go into it, which can be involuntary, meaning things are done in the heat of the moment, or there's like premeditated, like you chose it, you knew what you were doing, you were well aware. There's a lot of categories of how crimes are being categorized at the moment. All right, so they're going to talk about how this case might be categorized based off of the details of it. Now, my problem with sentencing in jail is that it seems as though it's becoming very accommodating to people. But you guys let me know your thoughts. Let's continue.
Probable cause affidavit. What challenges do you think the defense might face in this case?
I mean, it's going to be a tough case for them because the defendant kind of spilled his guts as to what was going on and what was, why he did what he did. And so, it's going to be a challenge. This is going to be one of those where they're probably looking, or they're less.
And I wonder if it's going to be a challenge because his honesty is going to be relatable. Right? And this is why sometimes women say men are dangerous. Okay? Is because they would be able to relate to a man who would have snapped on emotion, or after finding out something that some men would consider devastating, like finding out that a partner is cheating on you. All right? Why would that complicate how things would go?
Or charges, or what can we do to mitigate the circumstances here?
If you were on his defense team, what would be your strategy?
If I was looking at it from this case, Indiana has what's called voluntary manslaughter, and voluntary manslaughter is where you do a killing in the heated moment. It actually says you have to have the heat of passion, and that would probably be my strategy here. Would be to try to get the prosecutor to negotiate something along with voluntary manslaughter as opposed to a murder charge.
With the photo of the victim's body allegedly sent from Taylor Meyer's phone, how impactful could that be in court?
Well, obviously the photo, he's just, he's sort of documenting the crime for them, and so that's a huge negative. The comments he makes to the police afterwards, and the statement he gives is a huge negative for him, and so that he's many ways he helped build the case for the state.
Meyer allegedly didn't answer the door when police first arrived. Could his actions before the arrest be used against him in court as well?
Yeah, so there's something called consciousness of guilt. So if you do things like run from the police, or you anything you do, or you hide evidence, anything along those lines, that's called consciousness of guilt. And when you wait and don't respond to the police,
yeah, it's pretty clear that he did what he did. I think now this is where people are just kind of playing to see what's gonna happen with him. Like, is he gonna do a murder bid, or is it because he spoke up to the police that he's gonna get some sort of deal where he's out in a serious amount of time, but still amount of time where he gets to live? Like, what is gonna be his fate? And I think that's so sad that his fate is being discussed versus what was done to this woman. But let's continue, because I know they're going to get into the grisly details of this case while they discuss what he has done.
Initially, they can argue that he's only doing that because he knew he did something wrong.
Now, the alleged motive revolves around Deborah not appreciating the Valentine's Day plans. How does intent factor into a case like this?
Yeah, in Indiana, you just have to show knowingly or intentionally. There's not an extra component where if you had a pre-planned meditation or something like that, you get a worse penalty. So the intent is important in any case where there's a murder, because if you can show the why, right, then the jury can relate to the situation and it ties him more to the crime. And here, obviously, he's upset about the fact that she's not appreciating his gestures on Valentine's very well. But also, there's this belief that she's cheating on him too, and that comes into play too in his motive. I'd say both of those combined are going to be, obviously, this is the why. Here's the why, but that's also going to be the part that the jury or the defense will jump in and say, but that's why we have a voluntary here instead of a murder.
Could the defense argue that this was a crime of passion rather than premeditated murder? And what's the difference in sentencing?
Yeah, so Indiana doesn't have a premeditated murder statute; just has murder. If it is premeditated, that's something that could make the sentencing worse. In Indiana, the voluntary manslaughter is the crime of passion, where the murder is done in passion. That drastically reduces the possible penalties. It's actually a fully suspendable sentence. So, in theory, at least, a judge could give you no executed time. You could get up to 30 years on that.
Wow. See, I don't mess with that crime of passion BS. You can get a suspended sentence? So your man could delete you, no matter if it's from cheating, infidelity, whatever, and go free with the wrong judge? Yeah, no. Phew. Yeah, way too much terminology. I think that kind of puts people into a box of not being safe. Now, you all go and get into relationships if you feel like it. Okay? If you feel like it. But again, I don't think that's going to be the case here. He's done a lot of things that gives he knew about her cheating. And so if he didn't act when he found out the first time, then he shouldn't have reacted this way at this point. But let's continue. I'm going to do maybe like 10 minutes more of this one because this case is pretty open and shut. He admitted to it. And there's a few more I want to go into.
But murder, you're going to look at getting in the 55 year range. And you can get something, the max you could get on a voluntary would be 30. So it'd be a pretty drastic drop to go from a murder to a voluntary.
Does it, I'm trying to figure out a way of how to phrase this, but does it work against him that his children were upstairs when this alleged crime took place?
Yeah, so Indiana has statutory aggravators and mitigators that come into play, and the facts of the crime can be something that is an aggravator. And so the presence of his children would certainly be something the prosecutor would argue as an aggravator and something the judge should use to increase that sentence.
What role do digital records like phone calls, messages, and the photo sent to her alleged lover play in a modern murder trial?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to know. So to combat the voluntary manslaughter argument that the defense is going to make in this, because that's what they're going to focus on, is he's finding out that she's cheating on him, and he's got overwhelmed with emotion, and then she gets this disappointment on Valentine's Day, and he just snaps and reacts.
I think it's crazy that the law even could include that as a qualifier for someone's behavior. Not saying that it would completely, rid them of consequences, but that someone could receive a suspended sentence if they had no prior criminal history, no prior mental health crises or anything, and they just snapped in that moment. That's highly male-ish. Like that seems like something men would definitely do. I don't know how. I'm definitely not a fan of that. All right, let's continue.
The flip side of that I think the prosecutor will put out there is, it sounds like perhaps he knew there was something going on for some period of time, or had suspicion that she was cheating on him for some period of time. He was demanding her phone, so there's obviously something where he had some belief that more and more time.
Yeah. And the understanding or the suspicion usually has actions and behaviors tied to them. So I just think in general, like the fact that he was doing all of that, oh, give me your phone, let me check your messages, or I'm going to look at your Apple Watch, is proof that he was already suspicious of her. So that's premeditation. He spent a lot of time thinking about her cheating. So there's no way he just pounced in that moment. I mean, he would have to have like a OJ level attorney And as far as I knew, Robert Kardashian was with his name. Damn, Johnny Cochran. How are they going to prove that? I just don't see that happening. Let's continue though. A few more minutes and we'll move on to the next case.
Where he believed he was being cheated on, starts undermining that he was acting in sudden passion, right? That this is something he's had boiling over for a longer period of time. He had a chance to try to calm down and cool down over it. And then, the prosecutor would say, well, that's murder, not voluntary manslaughter. This wasn't a snap thing.
Yeah.
This is something he'd known for.
At that point, that was him boiling over on the information. He was already thinking on it. Could you call it narcissistic? I don't know if I would call it narcissistic. I would definitely consider somebody who wants to delete their spouse after something like cheating or something like that. Maybe they're sociopathic, psychopathic. I would say there's some pathology there where it's either like a break in self-esteem or ego. And so they're like, how dare you? And they delete the person. To me, that's psychopathy more than that would be narcissism. But, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think I can say either or, honestly, but I would say it falls more in line with psychopathy than anything else. Let's continue though.
Weeks, and he decided this was the moment to follow through on it. So if they have a long history of showing that he knew about this relationship or suspected about that relationship, that could hurt his argument for voluntary manslaughter.
And if the defense argues self-defense or a temporary loss of control, what kind of evidence would they need to support that?
Yeah, the more they can show this was one of those instances where he found out information that was kind of overwhelming to him and he snapped, the better. So it sounds like he got into her phone. Did he see things in her phone? Something, even if he knew about this relationship or had suspect about this relationship, but he sees something where, let's say the guy sent some, nude pictures of himself, or she had sent some, whatever it might be, that would have really inflamed his passion. That's the kind of evidence the defense is going to latch on to try to make that voluntary argument. And so Indiana also has guilty but mentally ill. If there was some mental health issues going on that were combined in this, which, certainly his acts indicate could be, that's another avenue they may look at too, is a guilty but mentally ill type route.
Now, police reportedly forced entry into the home. Could there be any legal challenges regarding how the search and arrest were conducted?
In my read of it, likely not. One of the exceptions to the need for a search warrant is exigent circumstances. And in this case, they had reason to believe that there was somebody whose life may be in jeopardy or threat of life was at play. And when they have that, they don't have to wait for a search warrant. So I think they're probably going to have a pretty good exigent circumstances argument here.
Now, we touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but would Deborah's alleged affair, if proven, be relevant in court, or would it be considered a distraction from the actual alleged crime?
Yeah, the fact that she's having an affair in of itself, I would say, is not relevant unless he's finding out about it in that very close proximity to the murder itself. Then it becomes relevant only to the extent that it would explain potentially that.
I mean, at the very least, oh, sorry guys.
Or would it be considered
doing this? But I think at the very least, they could argue he had suspicions, and that's why he was asking for a phone, things like that. But he didn't have anything concrete until that moment. And that's possible. I just don't see this. I mean, he sent a picture to the supposed lover, so that could have been the psychotic break. But I mean, it's just terrifying that there even is a possibility that he'll get out. Right? Possibility that he can manipulate this and serve a shorter sentence and get to possibly even go out and marry another person, live another life, have another relationship. Because women will slop up any old seconds left. All right, we're gonna move on to the next case here. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that one. I will be putting the links to the stories that we cover in the description. So if you're interested in checking them out, they will be there. Let's move on to the next story. This is actually one where a wife and a good Samaritan were the victims. So the DV victim, and someone who thought he can help her. All right, let's get into this case here. Do me a favor, guys. Hit the like button, share, subscribe as we get into it.
He knew he was already going to jail, so why stop killing? That's the allegation against the Virginia husband and father who reportedly gunned down his wife as well as a good Samaritan who had come to check on her. We're digging into the details of these grisly killings and what the suspect apparently had to say to police, all with an attorney who focuses specifically on these kinds of domestic violence cases. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, real quick, this is another Law and Crime legal alert. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And the research is potentially linking ultra-processed foods to all this? Yeah, well, Morgan & Morgan is stepping in to fight to hold these food companies accountable. With decades of experience fighting large corporations, they are ready to stand up for the families who deserve justice. So if your child under 21 has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease, then visit www.forthepeople.com/food or scan the QR code on screen to learn more.
I step away for 3 seconds and we have a Morgan & Morgan infomercial. Damn it, Jesse Weber.
A man walks into his home.
He knew he was already going to jail under 21 in Virginia that was absolutely rocked by a double homicide that resulted in the deaths of a young mother and a family friend. Authorities with the Henry County Sheriff's Office identified the two victims as 22-year-old Mandy Coleman and 68-year-old William Leroy Morey. A criminal complaint that was filed with the court and that was reviewed by local.
Actually, Rocket, this is not a teacher case, but I will be doing a stream on teachers because the way these nasty ass, funky ass teachers are behaving out here, we're definitely going to talk about them. Okay, and a surprising number of them are women. So we're going to get into it definitely. But no, this is not a case of a teacher, unfortunately.
Local media outlet WDBJ lays out the allegations against the suspect here, 30-year-old Joshua Coleman. He is Mandy's husband. And apparently, this is all based on Coleman's own alleged confession. Now, we really want to get a good understanding and insight into not only how domestic violence cases can go this far, but what happens next in court. And so for that, I want to bring on Texas trial attorney Anthony Osso, who specializes in this kind of law. And Anthony is going to walk through each one of these different pieces of this case with me. Anthony, thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to dig into the suspect's mindset. I want to get into whether he is trying to go for an insanity defense with some of his actions. But first, let me lay out what the sheriff's office said happened. We go to Tuesday, July 22nd, around 1 p.m., and the sheriff's office got a report about a shooting in the Ridgeway area. Deputies find William dead from multiple gunshot wounds in the road in front of a house there. And according to WDBJ, deputies later determined that William had gone to the home on Meeks Road to check on Mandy Coleman. Later encountered her husband, Joshua Coleman, who had allegedly just shot her in the head not long before. So when investigators identified Coleman as the suspect, they apparently tracked him down and arrested him within a few hours. And the couple's 2 young children were with him. Now, here's the good news.
That is just crazy. Hold on, guys. Something is going on with my... Oh.
He knew he was already going to jail, so why stop killing? In Virginia, that was absolutely...
I'm going to start that over because I'm having some audio issues. And the playback sounded off to me, but I don't know if it's good to you guys. I'm just going to bring it back the last 2 minutes. We're going to go over that again, all right?
Absolutely rocked by a double homicide that resulted in the deaths of a young mother and a family friend. Authorities with the Henry County Sheriff's Office identified the two victims as 22-year-old Mandy Coleman and 68-year-old William Leroy Morey. A criminal complaint that was filed with the court and that was reviewed by local media outlet WDBJ lays out the allegations against the suspect here, 30-year-old Joshua Coleman. He is Mandy's husband. And apparently, this is all based on Coleman's own alleged confession. Now, we really want to get a good understanding and insight into not only how domestic violence cases can go this far, but what happens next in court. And so for that, I want to bring on Texas trial attorney Anthony Osso, who specializes in this kind of law. And Anthony is going to walk through each one of these different pieces of this case with me. Anthony, thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to dig into the suspect's mindset. I want to get into whether he is trying to go for an insanity defense with some of his actions. But first, let me lay out what the sheriff's office said happened. We go to Tuesday, July 22nd, around 1 p.m., and the sheriff's office got a report about a shooting in the Ridgeway area. Deputies find William dead from multiple gunshot wounds in the road in front of a house there. And according to WDBJ, deputies later determined that William had gone to the home on Meeks Road to check on Mandy Coleman, later encountered her husband, Joshua Coleman, who had allegedly just shot her in the head not long before. So when investigators identified Coleman as the suspect, they apparently tracked him down and arrested him within a few hours. And the couple's two young children were with him. Now, here's the good news. At least physically, they were unharmed. Before I go any further into this, Anthony, talk to me about the impact on children in these kinds of situations. These children are young, reportedly 10 months old, 2 years old. Even if they didn't actually witness their dad allegedly shoot their mom, they're still going to be dealing with trauma and the after effects of all this.
Absolutely, Jesse. Severe trauma. I don't think that there's anything worse that a kid could go through, because not only did they lose their mother here, but at the hands of a violent crime like this, and my understanding also losing their father is just horrible for a kid to have to go through, live with for the rest of their life, and something that they're going to have to deal with for the years to come. So it's a horrible part of this case, in addition to the loss of Miss Coleman.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time with domestic violence cases or alleged domestic violence cases. It's not just the victim in the case, but it's also who's left behind, and the children are left behind. So we go back to this. Coleman was arrested during a traffic stop, and reportedly he had a handgun and an AR-15 rifle. Now, WDBJ reports that Coleman admitted to deputies that he'd killed both Mandy and William. According to the criminal complaint, Coleman and Mandy got into a heated argument in which he accused her of cheating on him. He allegedly told investigators he went to his room, grabbed a gun, and shot her in the head. Anthony, if that is true, if he made these admissions, why did he make these admissions? Why do you see criminal defendants make admissions like this?
Well, sometimes it really is case specific, Jesse, and not every criminal is necessarily a criminal mastermind, right? So sometimes there's no real theory or thought or intelligent mindset behind it. They sometimes feel like they have no other option, and they don't want to run from the problem, and they kind of feel like they're a dead end. So you do see that sometimes. In this instance, we can't really say quite yet why Coleman reported, or at least admitted to the shooting in this case. And maybe he thought that
Because he did it. Because he did it, and he felt justified because she cheated. That's why he admitted it. I mean, like, why the reason would he be like, oh yeah, I deleted her. She was cheating on me. Because he did it and he felt justified. That would be enough. Especially if there's evidence that he did do what he did. So I don't see why they're questioning it too much. I mean, I definitely understand why. Oh, why would you admit to it? But it's like, why would a person need to conceal something that they obviously did? They had no intentions of concealing it when they did it. They just, oh, I did it. Oh, you cheated on me? Oh, I deleted you. Now I'm in jail. I know I'm going to jail, so I'm going to kill another person. I mean, it's pretty clear what's happening here. So He didn't care at this point. I do think psychopathic is the best definition for him, right? Because this is what the Merriam-Webster dictionary is saying: a person egocentric and antisocial personality marked by a lack of remorse for one's actions, an absence of empathy for others, and often criminal tendencies. Let me just make that big, just so we can read it again. Psychopath, mentally unstable person, especially a person having an egocentric and antisocial personality marked by a lack of remorse for one's actions, an absence of empathy for others, and often criminal tendencies. That's what it's giving. That's what it's giving. Sorry. So yeah. Thank you so much, Rocket. Thank you for the subscription. What's going on, King Rooster? What is going on? Yeah, this individual was psychopathic, and he's okay with that. So let's continue.
The argument that led up to it was some sort of explanation for what he did.
Now, someone might hear this and say, okay, it's an open and shut case, that's it. The problem is that's not always true, right? Even if you have an alleged admission, an alleged confession, there are ways for defense attorneys to keep it out of trial, right?
Yes, there are. And you really have to look at, well, first and foremost, was he read his Miranda rights? If he's back in an interview room, we've got to assume he was under arrest at that point.
Was he read his Miranda rights? That's basic. If they didn't read him his Miranda rights, they didn't want him to go to jail. So I believe they did. But one thing I will say is people don't understand the progression of a crime. Something happens. A body's discovered. Someone's missing for a certain amount of time. There's evidence of a crime, no body. They come to a conclusion. Someone's arrested. All of that little part of it, right, can take up to years to get through. By the time we get to the stage of going to trial and things like that, so much has happened. So someone can absolutely start off by confessing to the police and end up getting charged with involuntary manslaughter versus red rum first degree. Right? A lot can happen. People retain counsel. They start putting in different measures, pretrial motions. Oh, let's get him to psychological testing. Let's see if he's competent to stand trial. Let's see. All of that is happening before you even make it to the courtroom. So it's very possible that someone who came to the police and said, I did it, doesn't get first degree red rum. They don't serve life in prison. They actually get a much shorter sentence, and they're out with good time. They're out in 16 years. So things have really always been this way, but I don't think people have always been aware of how trials and things work. So it's really devastating for these women and their families to try and get justice in this type of system. But let's continue, right? Because they're obviously starting with seeing if he was given his basic rights, Miranda, right? You have the right to remain silent. Why are you telling these people what you did, right? Because you know that you don't have to.
So there is potentially a suppression argument to be made there. I imagine that if homicide investigators have a suspect that they were be on the lookout for and arrested and brought back to the investigation room, that they were smart enough to probably read him his Miranda rights. So that's probably not the defense's linchpin in this case. Would be to suppress that statement.
Okay, we go further into this. So WDBJ then reports that Coleman, quote, knew he was going to jail. So when we talk about mental health later, let's keep that in mind. Knew he was going to jail. So he decided to kill William as well and went looking for him. Now, Coleman allegedly told investigators that he went to William's home. William was gone. Turns out he was en route to Mandy's home on Meeks Road to check on her. And William found him outside and shot him multiple times. At least that's the allegation. That's according to the complaint. An arrest warrant that was reviewed by ABC 13 News says that when Coleman drove up to the home, William came over to ask him where Mandy was And that's when Coleman allegedly shot him multiple times with his children in the vehicle with him at the time. Now, it's unclear what relationship William had with Coleman and Mandy, but investigators confirmed that he wasn't related to them, but didn't really provide any further details. Based on Facebook posts by Mandy's mom after her death, he was apparently a family friend of some sort. So, Anthony, Coleman apparently believed Mandy was cheating, something her family strongly denies online. Can he claim some sort of, we talk about in the law, right? Voluntary manslaughter, right? Heat of passion. Can he claim some sort of emotional distress sort of defense?
He can. I mean, he can claim, and his defense can claim whatever they want. I think to your earlier point about his admission, Jesse, and the case being closed, I think the idea that there's ever a defense of identity in this case is sort of out the window. So he's probably going to have to rely on a specific intent issue. And I think based on the cheating allegation, I'm sure the defense is going to explore whether it was heat of passion based on potential infidelity in the relationship. So he can make that claim. It's something that the defense is definitely going to want to follow up with and investigate to see if they can substantiate what was going on.
Yeah, in jurisdictions that accept the insanity defense, I would imagine an alleged admission, knew he was going to jail. That hurts insanity, right? Because the idea would be for insanity, I had no idea what I was doing was a crime. I couldn't conform my behavior to the law. The classic example would be somebody, murders somebody and then, goes outside and gardens. It's like, oh, who are you people? Why are the police here? Like, that would be the extreme example. But the idea of knew he was going to jail, got nothing left to lose, right? We take that argument, we take that allegation.
Now, it's scary how there's a theme with these cheating spouse cases, right? Oh, heat of the moment, passion. He was so angry, he couldn't deal with his emotion. There's a theme where excuses are kind of being made for people who are taking red rum choices. Now, we're going to go into the next one. This is sort of like a little law and crime documentary that I really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed this one, not because it's talking about how hypocritical married people are, but because what these couples
So
had,
look at the background of this.
what these couples had actually was so toxic that it created a nasty web of lies, deceits, murder. And it was just all around an ugly case. So we're going to get into this case here of Emmett and Candy.
Are you Candy?
Yeah.
Please help us put this together as best as we can. We'll match statements with evidence. I mean, you know how police work goes.
I know. I do it all day long. Rob, my husband, has he has had a really hard time with me working with Emmett. Emmett being younger and aggressive attorney, and I have been working with him since October.
Are you and Emmett involved in a romantic relationship?
No.
Have you ever been romantic with Emmett?
No.
Okay, now let's say sexual. Have you been sexual with him?
Love may be a battlefield, but infidelity is a war zone.
From momentary lapses in judgment to full-blown affairs, the aftermath of infidelity can wreak havoc on families and leave a trail of broken hearts, and sometimes death, in its wake.
See, this is my issue. Why is cheating being given as a reason why people are passing things like? I think people not knowing how to handle themselves is why this is happening. As much as I believe infidelity is a bad thing, there's a weird air to some of this conversation. And it's not just across this video, right? Other videos that have been describing these cases. Let's continue though.
In this video, we explore the lives of two married couples whose worlds collided despite seemingly opposite trajectories. It is a case of love, betrayal, and murder. Let's dive in. For Rob and Candy Hall, it was love at first sight. They met at a local gym in California and made an instant connection. By the time they moved to Idaho in 2010, Rob and Candy had been together 15 years and had two teenage daughters. They settled in Meridian, the second largest city next to Boise, known for its affordable living costs and abundant outdoor recreational opportunities such as skiing, hiking, and fishing. Rob landed a skilled job as a computer technician at the local sheriff's department, while Candy proved to be a highly competent paralegal at a criminal defense law firm. However, their marriage suffered when Candy discovered that Rob was having an affair. Though they decided to work on their relationship, Candy also faced professional difficulties, such as being fired from her paralegal job at the Martins Law Office in September 2010. Less than a year after the family's relocation to Idaho, Candy faced unexpected challenges at work and home that left her feeling unfulfilled. As Candy tried to navigate through the stormy seas of her personal and professional life, she remained determined to find a new job in the legal field. Her search led her to 30-year-old Emmett Corrigan, an aspiring attorney awaiting his bar exam results. Their meeting was by chance, arranged through a mutual friend. Although Emmett initially talked about business and eventually needing a paralegal for his law practice, their connection quickly became more than just business-minded. Within 2 weeks, their relationship turned physical, igniting a passion neither could resist. But unfortunately, Candy was not the only one who had broken vows. Emmett Corrigan was a rising star in the legal field, characterized by his confidence, assertiveness, and good looks. Upon passing the bar exam, he started his own law practice focusing on criminal defense. However, his achievements were not limited to his career alone. He had a loving wife and 4 beautiful children at home. Emmett met his future wife, Ashley, while both attended Utah State University in 2003. They quickly hit it off and were married in a Mormon temple in March 2004. As Emmett worked hard to establish his career, Ashley devoted herself to raising their children and supporting her husband's legal aspirations. On the surface, Emmett appeared to be on top of the world with a doting family and flourishing career. Yet, there were whispers behind closed doors that painted a different picture of Emmett. Some described him as overly aggressive, cunning, and ruthless. It left many wondering how far he would go to get what he wanted and what dark secrets he might be hiding behind his charming facade. Emmett began his law practice with big plans for success, and he knew that a skilled and dedicated paralegal was essential to achieving his dreams.
So 2 little narcs meet each other, right? If we're being real. Emmett, his little narcissistic self, is, I'm a hot lawyer. I need a young paralegal to come do my bidding. And she's the woman who got with Rob, and her life started going downhill. And so I'm sure Emmett seemed like a light bulb compared to her dull, boring, unfulfilling life. All right, let's continue.
So in October 2010, he brought Candy Hall on board, and she quickly proved herself a valuable asset to the firm. However, their relationship was far from professional, and it did not go unnoticed.
I met Emmett at a business lunch. He was in hot pursuit of me coming to work for him. He would show up at my office every morning, email constantly all day long. One morning, we went to pick up some items for the office, and that's when he kissed me. He said, "I'm sorry, I just had to do that." I thought to myself, what is he doing? I'm not worthy of a man that's 10 years younger than me. I remember Emmett's paralegal telling me that he had 5 children, but that his wife was awful towards him. I think deep down, Emmett knew what he was doing with me was wrong, but he didn't know how to change it. He liked all the attention and the control that he had while he was cheating.
Rumors of their torrid affair quickly spread throughout the firm, and their sexual encounters at the office only fueled the gossip. As Candy settled into her new job, some of her past mistakes caught up to her. Just weeks after being hired by Emmett, the Martins Law Office, Candy's previous employer, reported her to the police for financial discrepancies after an audit.
Financial
They alleged
discrepancies. Hold on. I know we ain't gonna act like she's not a scammer. Financial discrepancies? Let's hear about these financial discrepancies.
Candy had redirected $32,500 from business.
Candy stole $32,000 from her employer. She didn't redirect nothing. She took that money, put it in her account.
Clients to her personal accounts. With mounting legal troubles and personal issues, Candy's life was rapidly unraveling. Back at home, Candy's husband, Rob, grew increasingly wary of her behavior at work shortly after her hire at Emmett's law office. He never liked Emmett from day one, and his gut instincts told him something was off. His suspicions were apparent in emails, including one sent to Candy on January 2, 2011, in which he stated, "I'm still in shock that you continue to text Emmett and continue to delete the texts, while all this time, if I felt uneasy, you would throw your phone at me and tell me to look at the texts from Emmett. You've reached a new low for me. Good luck with Emmett. Once the honeymoon is over, you'll be all alone. Karma is a bitch." In late January, there was a heated confrontation between Rob and Emmett in the back parking lot of Emmett's office, after which Emmett made the following post to Facebook. "Nothing better than having someone try and call you out, and when it comes go time, they end up pissing their pants and not wanting any part of what they started. Apparently, they talk smack in Cali. Here in Idaho, talk is cheap. Throwing down settles it once and for all." In a separate incident in late February 2011, Candy received a late-night text from Emmett that said, "I wish I was there with you tonight," which caused...
I'm confused. Does he sneak this in this man on Facebook or MySpace? I didn't know they had beefs on these apps in the past. Let's continue.
Caught Rob's attention. An angry Rob called Emmett and said, "Why are you contacting my wife at this time of night?" Soon, the two men found themselves toe-to-toe at the front door of Rob's house. The tension between them was palpable as they nearly came to blows. After the confrontation, a devastated Rob approached Candy and said, "You win. I can't compete. He's young, he's good-looking, he's an attorney. You make him a lot of money. What good am I?" Rob was heartbroken, but his troubles with Emmett were only beginning. A couple of weeks later, Emmett posted the following message to Facebook. "So sad seeing people get manipulated by people who abuse, lie, and cheat. I would kick their ass, but they're too scared to throw down. LOL. Next time, I'll film it for you." In private and now publicly, Emmett seemed to be going out of his way to humiliate Rob. Meanwhile, as Emmett's wife, Ashley, was in the later stages of her 5th pregnancy, she noticed that Emmett had not been himself for months.
Damn.
He was spending too much time.
Imagine having 5 babies for a man who's antagonizing another woman's husband. Jeez, that's gotta be tragic. Listen, that's gotta be tragic. Imagine your husband is beefing with another woman's husband over her. Oof. That's gotta hurt. That has got to hurt. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me.
Time away from home, causing concern among their children. Despite her worries, Ashley eagerly anticipated their upcoming anniversary hoping to reconnect with her husband. However, Emmett shattered her hopes when he informed her that he would attend a bodybuilding conference instead. Desperate to save their marriage, Ashley devised a plan to reignite the passion between them. Tragically, little did she know Emmett and Candy had their own agenda, leading to a dangerous turn of events. On the morning of March 11, Candy, accompanied by Emmett, met with a divorce attorney. She later testified in court that she was never seriously considering divorce and that Emmett had pushed her to do it. Yet, the Idaho Press Tribune reported that Emmett filed divorce papers on her behalf. Later that day, Candy left work at 6 p.m. and, upon arriving home, found Rob in the garage. An argument arose in which Rob expressed frustration with Candy's lack of attention toward their relationship. He stormed out of the house at about 8:45 p.m., and she left shortly after that. As she backed out of their driveway, she called Emmett and told him she was headed to the Walgreens pharmacy to pick up a prescription. Meanwhile, Ashley had prepared a special evening dinner for Emmett. However,
That is so trifling. Alright? At the end of the day, these two star-crossed lovers are stringing along their unsuspecting spouses. His wife of 5 children, she bore 5 kids for him, and he's out there with another lover. And that other man thinks that he's falling in love, trying to keep his love alive. And boom, his wife is with another man. And that's going to cause so much issues for them in their life. All right, I'm going to move on to the next case. This one was truly shocking. You know, this is a teacher case, but this one I thought was a little different. So I figured I would cover it outside of the teacher series because it's just so bizarre. All right, but this is about a young inmate. All right, let me share the details of this stream here, and we'll get right into this next one.
This wife and mom was accused of trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband, but it wasn't some covert contract killer like you see in the movies that prosecutors say she solicited. They said it was a juvenile that she wanted to get her out of her marriage by taking out her husband, a juvenile inmate who she was teaching English to behind bars. Now, if that wasn't shocking enough, it goes to a whole new level because on top of that, she also sent this boy explicit pictures of herself and had sexual contact with him. And the jury in her case just reached a shocking verdict. We got a lot to unpack on this one. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Look, there are a lot of ways for people to get out of a marriage. None of them are easy, but you have divorce, some sort of amicable separation, but we have seen in so many true crime stories, someone thinking that their way out could be hiring someone to kill their significant other. Prosecutors in tiny Adair County, Kentucky argued that was the approach that 27-year-old Elena Barden took earlier this year. Now, Elena was a teacher in the public school system, and she was assigned to help young people who were spending time at a local juvenile detention facility, people who were facing charges. It's admirable work. And it also appears that she was a very admirable person outside of work. She was a loving wife, it appeared. She posted videos on TikTok of date night with her husband, and she was also a mom. And she made sure that people knew just how much she loved her daughter. You can see in this post that she says, "My girl." It was posted on March 27th of this year. It was that month of this year. An investigation began, though, into Elena Barden that would shatter that admirable image that she had both at work and at home. Investigators said that they were doing a routine search of the detention center, just looking for contraband, things like that, of the young people who were spending time behind bars. And during that routine search, they found on one of the juveniles what they called explicit materials. Some of those explicit materials were of Elena Barden. This boy that they found the explicit materials on was the boy that she was teaching behind bars as an English teacher. Further investigation found that, quote, Barden had subjected the juvenile to illegal sexual contact and provided him with sexually explicit images of herself. But not only did Kentucky State Police accuse Barden of having sexual contact with this boy and sending him explicit pictures of herself, they also said that Barden, quote, solicited a male juvenile at the Adair Juvenile Detention Center.
I mean, this is just wicked and bizarre, right? Very bizarre thing that this person would be doing. You know, it's interesting that they blurred out all of her family, but when she was engaging in these acts, she wasn't worried about the reputation of her family. You know, she's a predator. But let's continue.
To kill her husband. Now that is surprising when you just take a glance at her social media, Facebook, TikTok. It seems like she's in a great marriage, but we always know that social media is only part of the story. The last social media post that Barden made was on March 28th of her and her daughter. Now March 28th is important because that was a day after police found those explicit images inside the facility. It is unclear whether she knew what the staff had found related to her at the time she posted this image. But 4 days later, she certainly found out because on April 2nd, Kentucky State Police put her under arrest. Barden was arrested. She was charged with solicitation of murder, sexual abuse in the first degree, and distribution of obscene matter to a minor. Her trial just happened this month. And you think about the timeline, I mean, pretty quick compared to some of the other pretty serious trials that we follow here at Law and Crime. All of this developing in March and April, and here she is with a 2-day trial in September 2025. And at that trial, prosecutors said that Barden had told the boy that she was teaching that she wanted to kill her husband, or maybe the boy could get one of his friends in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky to do it. This is according to paper The Lexington Herald Leader. Now, the motive, they argued, was that Barden wanted out of this marriage, but...
Hey, Joshua. Oh my goodness, this is so bizarre. And Pharaoh says, who cares about this? I think anyone who cares about what's going on in the world and who wants to be aware of the dangers today cares. And they would be watching a channel like mine where we go over the latest crime, true crime, and be aware of what's really capable, what people are really capable out there. So if that's not what you're here for, then you can leave. But good afternoon, Joshua. This one is a crazy one. You know, she's supposed to be part of the, what do you call it? Reforming of this young man. And she's choosing to use her position of power actually to exploit him further than he probably already has been in his own life. That's devastating.
She didn't want to split her assets with her husband in a divorce, and she did not want to share custody of their 5-year-old daughter. The newspaper writes that the juvenile was in jail on a murder charge. And Barden, we actually have reportedly some of the things she specifically said to him that was found in letters and a diary that investigators got during their investigation. One of the things that she wrote this boy in a letter reportedly said, quote, I know you say you'll take care of him, but shouldn't someone else do it to take the suspicion away from you? Barden also wrote in a diary that the boy would, quote, make comments verbally and in writing about, quote, getting rid of my husband. I would ask him what he meant. He was always very adamant that if he never did anything criminal again, he would do it alone. The Times Leader writes that Barden's defense attorney, though, looked at all of this and said any sort of solicitation of murder that was going on, all of that was a joke between a teacher and a student. Maybe it crossed a line ethically, but in terms of her trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband, the defense said absolutely not. The letters they said about killing Barden's husband, that they were never actually taken seriously. The newspaper did say that the juvenile testified and told jurors that he thought Barden was serious about killing her husband, but he never actually planned to do anything about it. I mean, it is important to note he's facing a murder charge. He's behind bars. It's unclear if and when he would ever actually get out of jail. Barden's attorney also appears to have attacked the credibility of this juvenile witness on the stand. And he tried to make the argument to jurors that this boy was grooming his teacher as much as she was reportedly grooming him. Tough argument to make, but
I mean, that's crazy. So even if he is a juvenile offender, is he capable of manipulating an adult? He's still a child. He's still in a position of not being able to consent to this adult, much less manipulate her.
You see in cases like this that defense attorneys have to take those kind of stands in hopes of appealing to jurors. Now, when it came to the sexual part of this relationship, prosecutors presented explicit pictures that Barden sent this boy. In fact, they say she went to Walmart to develop them. They also have security camera footage showing her going into the boy's cell, even though that is not allowed per the detention facility's rules. Detectives also read nearly 140 pages of letters that Barden sent this boy, many reportedly including explicit language and sexual fantasies of this teacher, but also explained real life sexual contact with the boy, and the boy reportedly confirmed all of that happened on the stand. Now, this trial lasted 2 days, and the jury came back with a shocking verdict. Barden, this mom, this wife, this English teacher, she was found guilty on one count of first-degree sexual abuse.
I mean, there's no reason why this would be shocking again. Some of these presenters are too much. But there's no reason why this is shocking. She did what they did. She did. There's evidence. There's proof of this. And it's just incredibly bizarre. Now, I am going to leave it there. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because at the moment, I do not have the energy to continue doing another show if I want to keep up with doing Bianca Ellis in a few hours. So thank you all for joining me here tonight. If you enjoy, or this afternoon, if you enjoyed the show, do me a favor, hit the like, share, and subscribe. And come back for the show later this afternoon at 3:45. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. I'll send you off with some music, actually.
Florabella on my screen. Her smile, it shines so bright. She's a queen with every scene. In the morning or the night, recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong, she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. Every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong, she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power. Spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit